Hello everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope you're doing well, and today I'll be doing a review of another Akira Kurosawa movie, and that is the movie Ran from 1985. But before I go any further, please be sure to smash that like button, light up that fire button if you're watching over on Odyssey. It really does mean a lot. Also, please make sure you hit that subscribe and that bell notification. That way you know every time a new video gets posted and every time we go live on the channel. Anyway, let's talk a little bit about Ran, which is, again, another Kurosawa movie. I've been on a huge Kurosawa kick as of late. This is a movie that means chaos or turmoil, and it's actually an adaptation of another Shakespeare play, this time of King Lear. So I had previously watched Throne of Blood, which I loved, which was a play on another one of Shakespeare's plays, which was Macbeth. This one takes on King Lear. I actually have not ever seen or even read the play King Lear before, and so this was actually my first introduction to the story. And obviously, as the movie was starting, I had an indication or an idea of where certain things would probably go with the three sons and the father giving up power, and there probably going to be some type of fight over that power, and it kind of played out in that way. But once again, Kurosawa is really able to do some amazing work, being able to adapt a play written at a certain time in history, written for a very specific region, written for very specific characters, and then being able to adapt them and be able to put them into this feudal era Japan time period is just, honestly, is fantastic. I honestly love every single one of these samurai era Kurosawa films, especially these two films, Throne of Blood and now Ran, dealing specifically with these adaptations of these plays. I just think it's brilliant. I think he does an excellent job, and I think it really does play out well on screen. Some of the strongest points of this movie are easily the acting. The actor who plays the old king in the movie, who gives up the power, gives this just incredible performance. He starts off with barely any life in him, and then you start to see him kind of get that life up, like almost like a weight's been lifted off of his shoulder when he eventually gives up power. But then as the play and as the movie go through, you start to realize that there's a lot of chaos going on, right? As it says, chaos, turmoil is actually the name of the movie itself. And you start to see it take its toll on him. And honestly, it's not just him, but also the makeup department doing a really great job showing kind of the life literally being sucked out of him as he's watching his family just tear itself apart. And this all kind of stems back to the beginning when he's trying to make the point to his sons that if all three of them stand together, that they remain incredibly strong. But one arrow by itself, as he uses a quiver of arrows, one arrow, one son by themselves is not going to be able to withhold anything. And there's one son in the very beginning of the movie who kind of rejects this and says this is all ridiculous, and you start to realize that this person might end up being the villain. And all of a sudden, of course, by the end of the play, if you've ever seen King Lear or you've ever seen this film before, you start to realize that there's a lot of these twists and turns as far as the characters and also their motivations are concerned. They start off in certain directions and then they move on to others. There's also a really great character who plays the wife of one of the sons, who is this kind of seductress-like character trying to get revenge for all the things that their father had done to her and her family, as now when she is in charge with her husband, she is now back essentially in the castle that was taken from her when she was younger. So again, just solid acting all throughout. Yeah, this is the guy right here, Tatsuya Nakadai. Does a fantastic job, and obviously kudos to the makeup department for being able to really help portray that ability of him essentially aging and having the life sucked out of him. All of the sons are played very well. There's this almost jester-like character who's played by this very androgynous actor. I was kind of looking it up because I was like, I don't really know if this is a woman or if this is a man. And then sure enough, when I looked up that it was an actor, it was a man. It even said that because of his very androgynous look, he was typically cast in certain roles for that very reason, which I found to be pretty interesting. Once again, the screenplay is also solid, adapted here by Akira Kurosawa, Hideo Oguni, and Masato Ide. Again, probably mispronouncing some of these things there. So very well written, well put together, well shot. Obviously, it looks completely beautiful. This is also interesting because out of all the films that I've seen from him, most of them are from the 1950s, 1960s, and this era, 1980s, is very different, and yet he's able to keep the same style that he's always had, but he's also able to update it for the new technology of the times. And so it's the first film that I've seen of his that's actually in color. He's able to make these really awesome, great landscaping shots. There's also some amazing sequences where there's hundreds upon hundreds of extras as well. All of these really work well together, and of course, Akira Kurosawa is editing this movie, and it's very well cut together. If I had to say anything as far as a negative or as far as a criticism of the film, I would actually probably say, just as I was praising the makeup department before, one of the issues that I had was the way in which blood was shown and expressed in this movie. It was shown as kind of this very stereotypical, very bright red color, and at sometimes it was done very excessively, where it's just spurting out, which I know had happened in a previous film that I had reviewed by Kurosawa, and someone had even mentioned in the comments that they thought it was a little too much. For me, since it was all leading up to this moment, and that was the only time that blood was shown in that way in that specific movie, I was kind of willing to let that one go. In this one, though, I feel that because it happened several times, and now most especially since we have color, maybe if it was in black and white, it may not have been nearly as jarring, but it being in color, I think, definitely made it a little bit more obvious as to the color itself. And the other gripe that I have with the movie, and again, so that first one is more so kind of a nitpick, and I think that in the end I could probably forgive it, and if I were to watch it again, which I could totally watch this film again, I think that I wouldn't be bothered by it. What I would be bothered by, though, is some of the sound design choices of this movie. There's a couple of times when either it's the music playing or it's the bugs in the background. There's a long sequence where there are these really annoying, shrill bugs in the background, which just, it wasn't even to the point of it saying, oh, this is kind of adding to the ambiance of the story. For me, I was like, man, this is just really loud, and just the way that the sound was mixed, and it was overpowering at times. So I don't know what was going on during a couple of these sequences where, the music or the sounds of the nature were kind of just overpowering everything else. I felt it was a little bit too much and a bit annoying at times, and it kind of took me out of the movie, which is a very long film, and it was moments like that which made me feel the runtime of the movie, because I am someone where I typically really like and really enjoy longer movies, especially if they're done really well, and I did enjoy this one for 99% of it, but for this 1% of the film where all of these things are happening, it really did distract me, and it made me start to feel kind of the weight of the movie, and as far as the length of the movie is concerned. But other than that, film is absolutely fantastic. Again, Kurosawa does a great job, so if you've never seen any of his movies before, this, I think, would also be a very good one to get started with, though a lot of the other ones that I've mentioned previously would also be very good. Obviously, my mind's always going to go to Seven Samurai because it is probably the best film that he's ever done. Obviously, I know that there's a lot of debate on that. Right now, my favorite of his is still, I think, Throne of Blood, because it was just so well done, and that was all the way back in 1957. But Ron is fantastic, obviously, taking place a lot later on compared to the other films that I've reviewed in his filmography, still taking place during this feudal era of Japan, another adaptation of a Shakespeare play done incredibly well. And to be honest, I think if I were to ever see an adaptation of King Lear or a movie version of King Lear or anything like that, I don't think I would be able to be happy with it, because I would be constantly comparing it to this. And as I've mentioned, I just really enjoy these period pieces set during this time and era of Japan. So if I had to give this film a grade, I give it a B+. And the reason why it doesn't get into the A range for me, at least at this point in time, is because of that sound design during those moments, because it really was distracting, and it really did make you feel the runtime of the movie, and that's never a good thing for a film, especially one that's a little over 2.5 hours long. But other than that, it is fantastic, and can't wait to get my hands on another one. But I think those are the only ones that are readily available via streaming platform and via the ones that I own already. And so I'll be looking into, I know that a couple people have mentioned, Kagamushu, or Kage Mushu. I don't know exactly the pronunciation there, but I've heard a lot of people recommend this one as well. Shadow Warrior is what that translates at. So maybe I'll be able to find a way to get a copy of that and do a review. But in the meantime, let me know your thoughts about Ron in the comments section below. If you like this video, smash that like button, light up that fire button. If you're watching over on Odyssey, it really does mean a lot. You're all amazing and beautiful people. I hope you all have a wonderful day. And as always, God bless. And now for a huge shout out to all of my June Patreon and Subscribestar members: Andrew Hoyle, Biffer the Hobbit, Brian P., Dion, Don Bruno de la Mancha, Enrique Evangelista, Father Christopher Miller, hail to you, Father, Father Damian Cook, Garrett Searles, Inflamed Wood, It's a Trap Productions, Jason Clark, Jacob Juice, Jeffrey Toone, Jonathan Carney, Laura, the Modern Major General's Story, Mike Jackson, Mad Mitch Dunaway, Mr. Peabody and his evil twin with the beautiful hair, On to June, Orange Hat Reviews, Out of Step with Reality, Priscilla Hall, Riff Magos, Rosetta Ullen, Teresa Martin, Theodore Bendon, and rather Teresa Martin is Miss Martin Muses now, Tina Bojan, Tina B., and Washington Madranda. Thank y'all very much for being my supporters on Patreon. And to my Subscribestar peeps: Fast Reaction, Nosferatu Gatsu, Stand For, John B., Perpetual Punster, Mr. Roy, Glinzer, J. Alex McCarthy Jr., Dean Heiss / The New Number 2, J. Rod the Beer Guru, Nevanon G. Adams, and ZK Man. Thank you all very much for being my Subscribestar members. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every video and live stream, please consider joining on Patreon or Subscribestar. You also get access at other tiers to things like a bi-monthly podcast, bi-weekly, twice a month podcast that I do with John the Flick Pick Flickinger, which is a lot of fun. There's also a tier in which you can join me once a month for the Chosen of Valhalla live stream, where you all get to, at that level, join me for discussions, talk about any projects that you might be working on, or just hang out and have a good time. It's a lot of fun. And also, too, for many of those levels, you also get access to a giveaway section on the Discord server, where you get access to giveaways of things like 4K movies, digital codes, and tons of other stuff like that. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, check out the links in the description and sign up over on Patreon and Subscribestar. You guys are all amazing and beautiful people. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and as always, God bless.